With your reaction to that, how optimistic are you about emerging markets right now?
Well, I think we've had 4 tough years since March 2013. So this is the first quarter that we've seen inflows in. So, yeah, I'm more optimistic about emerging markets than developed markets at the moment. And there has been a big swing in investor sentiment.
How do you approach, you mentioned you do a lot of business in Asia. How do you approach the Asian market at this point?
Well, I think there's good markets there and bad markets. So the key is to choose the good markets and choose the good companies in the good markets. So for us, especially India, Southeast Asia, these are the countries we'd like at the moment.
Is there a particular sector within India that you like?
Yeah, I suppose generally we have certain themes throughout Asia we'll try and cotton on to. So banks tend to do pretty well and tend to be a barometer of the economy. So we like, for instance, HDFC at the moment, Kotak, these sort of banks, they tend to reflect the general growth in the economy. We like Hero because it makes motorcycles, those sort of things. And but especially the banks, they tend to be a great sort of way to play the economy.
How big a mistake is it for someone like me to paint emerging markets with a broad brush, especially Asian emerging markets? Is there much in common between, say, China at this point and India, which seems more nascent still?
Yeah, I think it is a common sort of mistake. We'd probably make it generally, I think, throughout the world. So yeah, there's a big difference between investing in China and India, even though both might be growing at the same rate. So for instance, corporate governance at this moment in time would be better in India than China. But I think the key is not to write off China and look and see how you can make money there long term and invest there.
Ask you a bit about political risk. We had an election in South Korea today. Potentially that will offer some stability to that country after this corruption scandal. How much does that matter in Asia in specific? We can talk about Europe in just a moment. But does political risk loom large in Asia right now?
You've got to really try and not disregard it completely. But taking Korea as an example, you wouldn't sell Samsung because an election's coming up. It's one of our biggest holdings globally, and we like the company. So you've got to really look beyond the political risk, and it can be advantageous. So and really look at the company basically.
When you look at South Korea, are you optimistic that things will change there when it comes to the economy? Were there lessons learned from the corruption scandal that we saw?
Yeah, I am. We like South Korea. We think they're good companies there, and I just used the example of Samsung, which is doing really well at the moment.
Let me ask you about political risk in Europe. You're headed back to London soon. We await the snap election on the 8th. Does that provide more stability in this interregnum? Do you buy into what Prime Minister Theresa May is saying, that that's going to give her a bigger mandate, or does it just further complicate things, add more uncertainty?
I think she's chosen her moment pretty well. The UKIP, we're lucky we just had local elections, so we can see the trends, and the UKIP vote has collapsed to a certain extent and gone back to the Conservatives. Labour are perceived to be weak. So if all goes well for her, and she'll pick up some seats in Scotland, if all goes well, she should get a larger majority. And she's a cautious leader, so she must have had some pretty clear advice that she's going to do well before she's called this election.
Do you like her approach thus far? You've heard what she had to say in Parliament. You've seen the opening salvos here in these negotiations over what happens next. Do you get the sense that things are headed in the right direction?
Yeah, she knows. She's a good leader. She's more cautious than Cameron. Cameron might go with a decision on 75%. She'll wait to get the 100%. So I think there's a lot of, she's got a lot of smart traits, and I think she'll lead the negotiations pretty well. But it will be tough. I mean, it's going to be a tough negotiation.
From your vantage, what does the beginnings of this corporate migration look like? A number of banks have committed to moving a few hundred people elsewhere, albeit in the UK or in Europe. How do you watch all of that playing out? What are you looking for?
Well, I think the banks, unlike asset managers, have to set up branches in Europe. So they'll either go to Luxembourg or Dublin. So great time to buy property in Dublin probably, and it's a great place to go, as you know. So they'll have to set up some sort of branch network. I think Lloyd's are going to Frankfurt. Barclays going to Dublin. So I think that's what we're looking at. I don't see huge jobs going there. It's just they need the legal structures there in order to channel the trades probably back to the dealers or whoever it might be staying in living in London.
What was your read on what happened in France over the weekend? Do you see that as a domestic story, or does that tell you something about larger political currents around the world? Do you see that as populism being stopped a little bit, or centrism winning the day?
I think centrism winning the day. I thought earlier Le Pen could win if she had a strong left-wing candidate against her, but I knew really as soon as Macron won that she couldn't win against a centrist candidate. So I think I don't think it is populism gone away, because if you look at the voting, he got 20 million, she got 10, and there were 12 million people abstained. So if those 12 million people had voted or hadn't spoilt their papers, so there's still a large protest vote there. Really, when you think about it, 22 million people didn't vote for Macron. So it's quite a significant, still a big significant move there, I think.
Do you like European equities writ large right now, French equities in particular?
Yeah, I like European equities. I like Swiss equities, German equities still doing pretty well. The euro being weak really does help Germany, as you know. I mean, it's got the biggest balance of payment surplus in the world, so it's a very significant advantage for it.
How about European financials in particular? So Commerce Bank today reporting better than expected trading results. Every one of these banks is in the middle of a turnaround plan. Yeah.
I'm still worried about European banks. I think structurally, don't get me wrong, I think they're all trying to do the right thing. UBS is probably further ahead than all the rest in becoming a wealth manager. Lloyds has done particularly well by becoming a pure UK retail bank. But they're still being hurt by the big the JPMs, the JP Morgans, the Goldmans. They're still sort of really dominating investment banking globally now.
You were involved in the 21st Century Fox's takeover of Sky. How do you watch what's unfolding now? You have Americans heading over to Ofcom to make their case about what they've seen happen here with Fox News. We've seen the deadline pushed back in part because of the snap election we were just talking about. How worried about all of that are you, about this process being derailed?
Well, I'm not worried about the decision being delayed because that was as a result of the election. I think at the end of the day, I would think there is more than an even chance of it going through, because with the split of Fox from News Corp, there isn't the same all this amalgam of news in the UK. So I think at the end of the day, I think it will go through with certain assurances, probably on Sky News or whatever. So,
generally speaking, how does the M&A landscape look to you right now? Do you think this is going to be? We're going to see more mergers and acquisitions in the remaining of the year.
Yeah, I'm surprised there hasn't been more targets or companies targeting UK with the sterling dollar rate the way it is. And of course, Fox did choose their moment pretty well in terms of in terms of the exchange rate. So yeah, I think we'll see more as with this. It's a great time if you're sitting overseas and want to buy something in the UK, this is the time.
And let me ask you about yours in particular. We're waiting more details here on the merger between Aberdeen and Standard Life. Can you share the latest on what's going on with the deal?
Yeah, the documents are all out earlier today, and we've announced the structure, the executive committees. So all of those details are now out, and it's proceeding pretty well. So it's in for regulatory approval, and hopefully it doesn't take as long as it does with Ofcom to get through our regulator.
On the issue of cost savings, detail in those documents about that?
There's about 800 jobs go over 3 years, most by natural attrition rather than redundancies, a bit of duplication, a lot of property duplication, that sort of stuff. So 200 million of cost savings over 3 years, which I'm pretty confident we can achieve. And as I say, a lot of it will be by just not replacing people and people naturally going.
Well, great.